breakfast puppies?
We're all set to begin, so let's dive right in to bikers, dice, and bars. Talking bicycles and motorbikes, gamer things and all the like. You can listen to it in your cars, but mostly it's about dive bars. Bikers, dice, and bars.
Hey, Matt, what are we drinking right now?
We're drinking Powers Gold Label. And the interesting thing about Powers, it's kind of considered right up there with Monarch or Hood River, HRD type brand whiskeys, but it's the Irish whiskey of below well drinks.
Yeah.
Subwell.
Subwell. Yeah, that's a good way
So
to
why
put
are we
it.
starting with this?
Well, we're starting with this because it was a request
Okay.
from the Jacob.
Yeah.
But this is actually Powers' attempt to make a premium brand whiskey.
Okay.
And it's their gold label Powers.
Ooh.
Many people consider it exceptional for Powers, which is not, it'd be like really good pop-off vodka, you know? It's, yeah.
But it is technically an Irish whiskey, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's what we're here to drink.
Yes.
Okay.
Straight.
All right. Good. Just making sure.
So you said it's below a well. Is something deeper than a well like what, an aquifer?
An American Legion Hall.
Would they drink this in an American Legion Hall?
Sure.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
They would say you got the good stuff today. That's nice.
Is this like, so where, like Elks Club?
Well-
Above or below Elks Club?
yeah.
Well, speaking of below an Elks Club, you're listening to Bikers, Dice, and Bars. We normally record from Portland, Oregon, but right now we're doing a special on-location recording with our guest. I am your host and producer in PC, and joining me, as usual,
Just Jacob. Dr. Xander Gerrymander.
Poppy Beaujolais.
and today we are being hosted by our special guest. It would be hard to call him a guest when he's also our host.
Matt Buckley. And I have a couple of different vocations. Work for Google, board member of Wagoncon, great little convention here in the Dalles, Oregon, and part owner of 4K Farms.
And that's where we are right now, right?
Yes.
It's a wonderful estate you have here. Earlier today, Matt took us out shooting. I had never shot a gun my whole life, and I finally got to today, and it was quite
Quite a few.
There was quite a variety.
so
It was
much
quite an
fun.
interesting experience for me. I might be shopping.
There was one gun in particular you felt quite amorous towards. I believe that was the AR-15 that
Yeah.
gave you romantic.
I believe your
Thoughts?
exact quote was, my dick. It was something. I forgot what it was.
Something like that.
My diction is excellent, is what
My
I was going to
diction.
say. Yes.
My diction was quite excellent after shooting that gun. It was quite an experience, and I think my favorite gun, the one I did not get to shoot, but I guess I shot its sister, brother. It was basically the same gun, but painted like a unicorn. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's Smurfette.
Yeah, Smurfette.
It's a pretty mermaid gun. It was so lovely.
Now, Matt, you have quite a collection of guns, and I understand that you are quite a collector. Like here on the estate, I'm seeing a number of collections of all shapes and sizes and levels of complexity and cost.
Yes. I like to say I have three main collections, but that ignores my role-playing games.
Well, many of your collections overlap with our themes, so we're definitely excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. This is first time for me, and while we've had several people here out at the estate, I like how you say that.
I like to be fancy.
Yeah.
It's radio. We can say what we want.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is a fancy state, and no one can prove otherwise.
The vineyards are just beautiful this time of year.
Right.
Yeah.
The rolling hills, your lovely stallions.
I don't own any of those vineyards or stallions.
Well, I saw them when I came in.
But there was a hill.
Yes, there's a hill.
With a lot more holes in it.
I almost ran over some wild turkeys on the way here. It was amazing.
It's okay. the wild turkeys out here this tomorrow morning, because you guys are going to stay, which is amazing. Well, some of you will. Some of you will get rid of, and then we'll really start.
What?
And that's a wrap. Goodbye, guys.
God damn it.
Time to get started. Got to get this party started. There we go.
The turkey herd that will greet us tomorrow morning, they show up about 6:37. There's 30 to 40 of them, and they will wander through the driveway down to the main field, do the can, and then circle around the property, and then I'll let the dog after him, which will be hilarious.
Okay,
Can I borrow the judge?
Yeah, well,
So our breakfast is going to be turkey and ground squirrel.
turkey and ground squirrel.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
A turkey and ground squirrel scramble.
Yeah, with a poison oak side.
Ooh, very nice. Can I get a poached
nice.
egg on that?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
It'll be a quail egg, but
Lovely.
You know what? Wild turkey, the food, not the drink, with some a poached quail egg. I could handle a little poison oak on the side.
yeah.
That would not be super
I'll allow it.
unappetizing.
You have good health insurance. It's fine.
So, Matt, you mentioned something that I do want to talk a little bit more about, which is the Wagoncon convention, which we've recorded at. We recorded this past May. We did a special episode and a post-mortem there. We actually brought our entire podcasting crew out there for the most part and did some crossovers, and we had some people from the wine club join us. So we had a fantastic time. And now that a few months have passed, what do you think? How was this year? What was the turnout?
So, to roll back a little bit, our first year was about 3 years ago. We had 100 people. As I've been informed, we beat Game Storm by one person in our first year versus their first year.
Yes.
Yep. Which I was like, I didn't even have to cook the books for that, or, it would have been awesome. We've grown 25% every year. So we went from 100 to 125 to 149 this last year.
Holy crap.
Which, for the Dals, is outstanding.
Well, you double the population of this town just by having that convention. So it's
Well, yeah, of the people we want to count. This last year was pretty good. We had a lot of good volunteer help. The games were great. We had Keith Baker. Yeah. Which fulfilled one of our board members' biggest wish and desire in the world. I actually feel bad that I wasn't able to go up and listen to him talk. I think they cornered him for 2.5 hours or something like that upstairs, and it was great. You guys were there, and I just kept hearing people going nuts. I tend to sit behind the admin table, basically. And help. Well, that's kind of my thing.
And your presence at the admin table was amazingly helpful. Thank you very much. You were always like, what can I help you with now? Well, we're good. Are you sure? Well, yes, you're fine.
We're fine.
So we've sat back. We've got a lot of good feedback. And it's always been crazy positive, and we're always very thankful. And we've been thinking about what we want to do this coming year. And on the non-convention side, we're in the process of going through our 501(c) and not just being nonprofit, but also being tax exempt. So we'll be able to take donations and help with things. So, and we're super excited with that. And we just secured the Civic, so we'll be back there this year for the first year.
Yes.
wonderful space.
Yeah. And we're going to try to get it locked in for the 5th. We actually have a lot more plans for the 5th year than we do for this coming year, which is kind of weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, we sat. So the board, because we're small, we don't meet for a month after the convention.
Which is sane.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
really want to talk to each other. We love each other, but we don't want to talk to
I'll
each other.
bet.
You want to keep loving each other.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so you need a little space.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good boundaries.
Yeah. And in that meeting, we go over the user survey. That's one of the only things that I do immediately after the con is try to get out a participant survey and get that. And we go over those. I can't read them. I'm kind of a stone cold jerk, but I can't read that type of feedback. Not for the bad stuff. The bad stuff I can action on. It's the good stuff. I'm kind of weird that way. I can't. It's oh my God, these people really like it. I have to do it again. I mean, great.
They like me. They really like me.
Exactly.
I can't let them down
But it
with
was,
the pressure.
and so we go over that, and then we go over kind of our terms. And this year we went into this great rat hole of what do we want to do for our 5th year, anniversary? And we're not even to the 4th year. And it's kind of crazy, But for the fourth year, this coming year, we have the whole building again. And we're going to try to focus on a couple of different things. We're going to try to get more vendors. We're going to try to get a few more special guests maybe, but we've been really lucky with the last several years. You yourself included, sir.
I love being there. It's my favorite convention. Like
we love you being there.
Yeah.
We really do. So we're kind of still in our early stages, to be honest. We all work full-time jobs. We all have families and lives. We're going to focus on new members, new volunteers, things like that. Because we have access to the full building, that's going to be interesting, like truly access. Before it was always in penciled. So we don't have the auditorium like paid for, but it's penciled in that we can use it and pay for it if we find something to go there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
So wait, the auditorium is in that.
Yes.
With the stadium seating and all that?
Yeah, and I haven't seen it recently, but apparently it's a lot better now, and they've done a lot of stuff with it.
All right.
But I don't know.
Well, we took a tour of it back in May, and, well, let's just say I had stars in my eyes. I would love to do something on that stage.
Yeah. And we have the ballroom upstairs where we had the double clicks 2 years ago. And so we may do another musical venue. We may not. We're thinking about some interesting things. One of the things that people they really like is the gaming in the pub on Saturday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe some of you may have been at some of this crazy brainstorming ideas.
Yeah.
There's another pub called Route 30.
Yeah.
Which is a great place.
Oh, they have really good snacks and food too. Like surprisingly good.
Yeah.
For just like a brew pub.
Right. Exactly. Well, their backspace has a stage and mics, and they do comedians and they do bands. And we talked to them, and I know the owners. They're a lovely couple. If you ever go in there, all of the artwork or woodworking and mechanical stuff is done by the owner. He's a master carpenter and metalworker. And so it's just fascinating to like watch the big massive clock that's kind of like a Rube Goldberg thing on the wall. It's crazy. Sometimes it's working and sometimes it's not.
It's also like directly 2 blocks away.
Uh-huh.
Too. Yeah.
It's staggering distance. Yeah. Absolutely. And you can buy a mug. Like you buy the mug for the year and they give you beers in this huge, like hand blown, unique mug for you. It's really crazy. Anyway, so we were thinking about splitting up the Saturday and doing the more family friendly, small kids thing still at the River Tap, but then bringing in some crazy heavy metal nerd band.
Well, let's talk about that. That would be, oh my God. Yeah. That your face, Poppy, is priceless.
It's early. And so, we do this because we want to bring gaming to the Gorge. It's not to make money. And, but we also have to balance that with what we can do. And, we're always pretty honest when people ask us, and sometimes I'm too honest, but yeah, it's how much do we want to spend? Right. And that's ultimately, I get you. Like this whole podcasting project is how much do I want to spend? I don't care. I'm just going to spend it and think about it later.
And I don't want to know.
Yeah. You see my cabinets.
Yeah. Well, but that's a good segue. I'm glad to hear that Wagoncon is coming along pretty well, and I'm glad to hear that you have some cool things in the works. But I am also really interested in a particular collection of yours that you have many stories about, and it's like right here behind me, and it's tantalizing. We will have pictures of all of this stuff. Well, at least the pictures that you're willing to have put online. But this is quite impressive. I've heard some of these stories before, and we were here for Wagoncon again back in May. And then we came here like a month or so later with some friends, and it was like, hey, come over, drink some whiskey. And the stories were so good. The whole time I'm sitting here drinking, thinking, I gotta get this guy on the microphone. So here we are.
I'm on a microphone.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what we've been drinking so far. So we've had the Powers.
The Powers Gold Label.
Yeah.
Not just any Powers.
The gold label.
What do you
Right.
think about this?
It's fine.
I mean, I don't hate it.
It's a serviceable Irish.
Honestly, it's definitely better than most well whiskey that I would say from like my favorite local bars.
Now, Jacob, you said that you have a ritual post-shooting that involves Powers, which is why we started off with this, and I feel like you should tell the good people what that is.
Well, Powers is one of the most common Irish whiskeys available just about everywhere in America. It's also a working man's drink. And it is one of the longest imported Irish whiskeys to the United States. It's been around forever. It was served for the walking bosses and riding bosses that were building the railroad across the country. It was served at the connection of the transcontinental telegraph system. It's a drink of my people, in other words. And after a hard day of shooting, having a little bit of Powers in a coffee mug, because pretension is not fitting for Powers Irish whiskey, with the first round you shot of the day as a flavor aid, is the tradition amongst my circle of shooting friends.
I was wondering what that clinking noise in your glass was.
He
I was
hasn't
very
gotten ice. The ice is across the room right now.
Very confused, yeah.
So Powers Irish whiskey with a little flavoring a la Winchester 45 Auto.
Nice.
It just a spent
Hells yes.
casing, picks up a little bit of the cordite, refreshes the taste in your mouth, and reminds you of your day.
So, Matt, this is, as you have described it, lower than well. It's gold, but it's still Powers. It's lower than well.
Well, Powers itself is. This is actually a pretty good representation of Irish whiskey.
Okay.
It's actually correctly aged. It's barreled in bourbon barrels. So Irish whiskey has a couple of distinctions. Irish whiskey, as opposed to Scotch whiskey or bourbon, one Irish whiskey is spelled correctly. Has an E in it.
That's how I've always spelled it.
Yeah,
Is there another way to spell it?
Scotch doesn't. Scotch whiskey doesn't have an E.
You drop the E.
You drop the
Whoa.
E. Yeah, it's kind of important too.
Yep.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
It's fighting words.
yeah, it's very much fighting words.
Weird.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Irish whiskey also, to be Irish whiskey, it needs to be barreled in secondhand bourbon barrels.
Okay.
There's actually a standard. And so if you think about this, for Irish whiskey, the real definition, we'll say modern definition of Irish whiskey, there had to be an American bourbon industry first.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And so imagine in the 1800s, there are these bourbon barrels going across the Atlantic Ocean to Ireland. That's dirt poor at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they were easy to get, because, no one wanted. Bourbon requires fresh, brand new virgin pine
Oak
barrels. Thank you.
American oak
barrels.
Yeah.
So, but they had all these barrels. They could only use them once. And so what are you going to do with them? Well, you're going to sell them to the Irish, because the Irish, at the time, they don't buy anything, right? So, it literally was a very downtrodden kind of thing. It's like, well, they'll take our secondhand barrels. What are they going to do with them? So they go to Ireland, and they have to be a minimum aged, I think they say minimum aged of 8 years, but they can do a really young at 6. So it's normally an 8-year aged. But the key to Irish whiskey is that it's triple distilled.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very long process. And it's done through a 3-barrel distiller kind of thing, depending on what company it is. And so Irish whiskey, unlike Scotch whiskey or bourbon, it tends to have none of the really high highs or really low lows, because they've been distilled out. And a lot of people in the United States, you get your Jack Daniels, you get your Jim Beam, you get those things, and you get these really powerful flavors because it's distilled once. And it's distilled in virgin barrels. So it's mostly what you're tasting is the alcohol and the flaming of the inside of the barrel, right? And so it gets to Ireland, and now it's aged 8 years in something that has bourbon in it. And sits there, and it matures and maturates, and then they distill it, or they've distilled it before it goes to the barrel, but regardless. And it's great.
What do they do with the barrels afterward?
That's the interesting thing, is sometimes they'll end up and reuse them again.
Oh.
Sometimes they'll send them to Scotland because the Scotch will buy anything.
There's just a chain of people who will buy anything.
It really is. But there's been some companies, and we'll talk about one or two of those companies tonight, that have started breaking with tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are getting a lot of like the whiskey snobs will look down on them because of it. But Powers, as Jake was saying, is like this very quintessential. Now, lately in the last 20 or 30 years, not as many Americans know about Powers. They know more about Jameson, and that has to do with mostly the branding. Jameson has done
really great marketing campaign.
Incredible marketing campaign. But Powers, a couple of years ago, they're like, hey, we can do a good whiskey. And they came out with this gold label, and it's actually pretty good compared to normal Powers. So if you go in and you go to a bar and you're like, I want a Powers, and you think this is what you're going to get, no, it's not.
That is a good pro tip.
That's a good distinction, because the question that I was ultimately going to be leading into was, you described them as lower than well. Why do you keep them in your cabinet next to the things that aren't?
Well, as a collector, I end up being a completionist.
Fair enough.
And when someone wants an example of a crappy whiskey, well, I gotta help them out. And what's funny is this is not it. I have a couple in there. I have a Highwayman.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, my normal green bottle Jameson is one of my lowest ones.
Yeah. And that's low.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
You did once tell us a story. You don't have to tell it now because that could take a while, of a really expensive, really crappy whiskey that you have.
Oh, yeah.
We might talk about that one later.
Yeah, later.
Yeah.
It's a bottle I'll never open.
It's a great story, though.
So what have we switched to now, Matt?
We switched to what most people consider a really good Irish whiskey. This is a Jameson 18.
Speaking of Jameson.
Yes. I like to use the Jameson 18 as a comparison with what will be the next round, which I'm not going to tell you yet. But, and this is where my economics come in. Jameson 18 will run you in Oregon with the taxes and the private stores and blah, blah, blah. Or government stores, not private stores.
Yeah.
Controlled supply.
Stupid OLCC. Sorry, what?
Yes. This one will run you in the store, if you're lucky, $90 a bottle, sometimes $120, $140 a bottle, which is pretty expensive. The one we'll talk about the next flight, I consider better, like much better.
Okay.
And you can find it for $50. And in the Oregon, if you sneak across to the Washington side, sometimes you can find it for cheaper, but you got to get away from Vancouver or anywhere along the border. But it's a pretty good Irish whiskey. You guys could put some water on it if you want to, or we can put some ice if you want to throw a cube of ice in there.
I'll take a cube.
This whiskey is so sexy. Oh my God. Thank you.
This is really tasty. This is definitely a noticeable step up.
This whiskey drinks like a fine wine. It's got it gave me a little bit of the sexy shakes, but
and the water.
So if the ice, give the ice a second to kind of move around.
Okay, let's talk for a moment. The concept of adding water to alcohol is something that you might think is a little weird. Some people are purists and would never dilute their stuff, and yet this is really good whiskey. And I remember this from the last time you were here. You kept suggesting adding ice and adding water. Why would somebody do that?
Well, there's two reasons. There was one main reason. If you add water or ice and let it melt, it will open up the flavors. It gives it something to carry it, and it will open up the vapors, and you'll get more of the body of the whiskey, and it really enhances it. I think Poppy, we've lost her. And this is only the second flight. It'll get better. And the second one is that one thing also about Irish whiskeys. So a lot of your like American bourbons are 60, 70, maybe 80 proof. So
I think they have to be 80 proof.
I don't think there's something
to be actual bourbon. I believe it has to be 80
right.
proof.
To be bourbon, yes. To be an American whiskey, it has to be above 65.
Yeah,
it's a weird number.
I've been buying direct from Europe whiskeys for so long. I think percentages, not proof, most of the time.
Sure.
And so, but your 40% or 80 proof, that's kind of the baseline or the low bar for most Irish whiskeys. And for most Irish whiskeys, 50%, 100 proof, or 54 or 56 is not uncommon. That's a strong whiskey.
And what is this?
This is 40.
Okay.
Because it's sold to
Americans.
A lot of Americans. And so the water, it's chemistry. It lowers the alcohol percentage because you're adding something to it, and it opens it up, and it makes it a little easier for people to drink. It's what you'd refer to as this is not, but some of the other ones are very hot. People go, that's very hot. And that just means it tastes like turpentine or rubbing alcohol because it's so high in content.
This does not taste like
No. This is smooth, mellow, and delicious.
You take those words back, so.
And I take back most of the bad things I've ever said about Jameson.
Yeah, but this is an 18.
No, I know. I'm aware of that.
For those who are not well versed in what alcohol numbers mean, what does an 18 mean in regards to a liquor?
So if you ever see on whiskey, or not necessarily on wine, but mostly on whiskey and other aged liquors or spirits, that tells you how many years they were in the barrel. Now, there's an important aspect to this that some people know, some people don't. There's something they call the angel share.
Mm-hmm.
Devil's cut, angel share.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a barrel of whiskey. It could be 100 gallons of whiskey in there, 500. I've seen ones that are like 1,000 and 5,000. They're barrels that are size of like VW vans, right? And you barrel it up, and then you let it sit. So the thing about whiskey is once you pull it out of the barrel, it's done. Mm-hmm. It never will change again unless you add something to it. You do something blasphemous like add Coke. Either form of Coke.
Monster.
Cocaine?
Oh, I'm having flashbacks.
Or Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay.
Virgin blood, whatever. But if you impure it, that changes it. But so what happens is every year through osmosis and diffusion, you lose some of the moisture. You lose some of the water. So it's actually through osmosis, right? Whichever one's actual water. Someone know?
Osmosis.
Anyway, thank you. And
science.
Yes.
Because of science, this happens.
Right.
Because of science, you lose whiskey.
So if you ever go to one of the...
fuck you, science.
If you go to one of the big distillery tours anywhere in the world, doesn't matter which brand or whatever, and they're doing spirits that age, they usually will have somewhere where there's a barrel with a piece of plexiglass, and you can see what this looks like. Mm-hmm. So after the first year, you lose 1 or 2%. 2%, and then every year you keep losing 2% of the current volume. So if you have 100 gallons after the first year, you've only lost 2. Okay, no big deal. Now it's 98 gallons. So the next year you lose another 2% of the 98 gallons, right? So you keep losing it, and they call it the angel share because, the angels, they come and they drink your whiskey, right?
Those fuckers.
I know. Well, I mean, most of the Irish are Catholic, so, they're, yeah.
There's a lot of angels up there.
Yeah, a lot of angels. A lot of drunk angels. Anyway, so
what other kind would there be, lad? They're in heaven, after all.
Exactly. So an 18-year whiskey, and this is why whiskeys, as they get higher in that number, they're more expensive because literally you don't have as much product to sell. So an 18-year whiskey, if you do the math, and I can't do it in my head, you've lost a considerable amount of that whiskey that was in the barrel that you can't sell because it's gone.
And you've had to sit on it for 18 years.
Exactly.
So that's why it gets more expensive. You've lost a lot, and it's product that's taking up space and inventory that you can't sell. So, and unlike wines age in the bottle, and some other things do. But whiskey, it's done. You bottle it, it's done. Mm-hmm. There's nothing left. It's never going to change. So if it's crappy, it's crappy. If it's good, it's good. And you've waited 18 years. It's kind of like a child. Well, let's see what happens.
That you can drink. Wait. Never mind. Okay.
Wait, we'll fix that in post.
So this was aged 18 years.
Yes. And it also means all of it was 18 years. If they did any tweaking, everything they added to it has to be 18 years old. So if they decided to use, sometimes they do, another distillers to kind of tweak it, it has to be 18 years old. Nothing that went into it that goes into the bottle can be less than that.
Man, motherfuckers are serious about their liquor.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Wait till we get to the Teelings.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I see those in the cabinet. They're eyeing me really seductively right now. And
Well, I have the flights lined up, but I can change it.
No.
So, folks, Jameson 18. What's your verdict on this one?
So there's a funny story that I probably won't get into right now, but I did once accidentally come across a triple shot of Macallan 18 at a bar that I got for free. Because
triple shot of Macallan 18?
Yeah.
That's a lot of... Wow. For free?
Yeah.
Whoa.
This drunk guy bought it and then poured them all into one glass, which is illegal in the state of Oregon to have more than 2.5 ounces of a distilled spirit in a glass at a time. Then he got cut off, and the bartender was really sad because he had to pour it down the drain, to which I said, I am more than willing to take one for the team, sir. And so I had to go and drink 3.5, 4 ounces of Macallan 18.
Oh, God.
And I asked how much it was a shot, and he said it was $45 a shot.
Yep.
And I like Jameson 18 more. I was actually really happy that I had never bought in a bottle of Macallan 18 because I would have been really disappointed considering how high of price it is. And so again, this Jameson 18, which is less expensive than Macallan 18, I like the Jameson 18 more.
Oh, yeah.
That's my verdict. It is smooth and delicious and goes down like honey.
Jacob?
I'm not a huge fan of Jameson, but once you cross the 10-year line with Jameson, they get much, much more drinkable. This one has the rich golden finish. It has the front end grain taste to it. There's the taste of fruit in the middle, all of which are classic indicators of Irish whiskey, and it's mellow throughout. It's Jameson, when it's at its best, becomes drinkable. And
I'm going to second that real quick. Not
Jameson
a Jameson fan.
Jameson's one of my common Coca-Cola mixing whiskeys.
But it's not exciting.
No, the green bottle Jameson is the only one in my entire collection, and you'll see pictures online apparently, that I will allow anyone to mix with anything except for water or ice.
Yeah.
Not even you, Powers Gold Label. Yes, sexy, seductive.
Gutter trash.
I am very happy that I got to bend that rule.
Well,
I mean,
that's a tradition.
If you mix it with a bullet casing.
That's fine.
Right.
That's not blasphemy. That's just sexy.
Yeah.
Poppy?
This is a very sexy whiskey. I'm not sure what else to say other than if I were to try to pick an occasion where this is the whiskey that I would drink very, very intentionally, it would be at a good old fashioned wake. Like if I was toasting a dearly departed and really wanted to do them some justice, this is what I would drink.
Oh, Poppy, just wait.
I mean, it's something you could like reasonably go to a liquor store and drop $90 on because you have like a day's notice to go get a whiskey for your buddy's wake. Like this, I'd go for this.
Well, I would definitely pour this out for a dead guy.
I'd pour this out for my Harmy in my mouth.
Okay, what's in my glass now, Matt?
This is Redbreast 12.
Yeah, it is.
And this is the one I was mentioning that is not half the price of the Jameson 18, but I consider better. Most people have tasted who've never heard of it, consider it better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Poppy has confirmed it.
And our next special episode, Sexy Whiskey Sounds with Poppy Beaujolais.
I'm almost speechless. I think I'm usually a little bit more talkative on the podcast, but
You're busy.
I'm busy over here. Girl needs a minute.
And this is lovely. Just a lovely whiskey. And actually the whiskey that I use to woo my wife.
Okay, we We got to know. We got to hear the story.
All right. So, my wife and I, before we got married, and we had a kind of a crappy fight, and it was early in the relationship, so it could have gone either way. You know, okay, no harm, no foul, but whatever. I went on a business trip, and I had known about Redbreast for years, and I hadn't introduced her to it yet. And I happened to be in Belgium. I got a box of Neuhaus chocolates, box of all dark chocolate, about 70%. Box of milk chocolate, because I didn't know what she liked. That's how new the relationship was. And you know,
and it's an important thing to know.
It is. It very much is. I've heard there are people that don't like chocolates. Actually, I don't like chocolate, but
I don't really like chocolate either.
I know. These things were amazing.
What? Yeah, not a thing.
We hang out with interesting people.
I know. So I show
Diversity
up.
is the price of life, and your friends.
I show up with a box of two boxes of Neuhaus chocolate and a bottle of Redbreast 12.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were married about a year and a half later, so it worked.
It worked! Hooray!
Yay!
It's an excellent way to make up if you've been an idiot.
I remember that.
Yeah. And she had, I don't think she had ever had Redbreast 12, and she definitely had never had Neuhaus chocolates. I now keep the open bottle of Redbreast and a backup bottle of Redbreast in the house. You know, I'm human, and I may mess it up again, but it's great. People will ask me, what Irish whiskey should I get? I only know about Jameson or
Tully.
Powers or
Tullamore Dew.
Bushmills. Tullamore Dew is actually not as common in the States.
Yeah.
It's usually Jameson or Bushmills or Powers.
Yep.
I was stunned and amazed when I left the Twin Cities and suddenly no one knew what Tullamore Dew was.
Oh, yeah. Most Northwest has no idea. I mean, it's not to say it's a great whiskey, but it's a good staple. This stuff, that's why I like to recommend it. People go, what should I get? If I'm running out of the house because I forgot about a wedding and I need to bring a gift,
grab the bottle of Redbreast.
I get the bottle. I get the spare bottle of Redbreast.
So how much does a bottle of this run you back new?
New, it'll run you $50 to $60, depending on what's going on. You can get it for $54, $55 in the Oregon all day long. That's the UK prices.
It's 43, 45 pounds sterling.
Wow.
But the UK has even more taxes than we do on alcohol.
I get another question about the whole year count that's going on here. So this is a 12?
Yeah, this is a 12-year.
Now, when a distillery does this kind of stuff, when they make a 12, they start it and they know that they're committing to 12 years of this.
Yeah.
Do they start another 12 the next year? Are there multiple 12s?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
Other times, remember, the minimum age has to be 12 years. So what they'll do, some distilleries, they'll have 1,000-gallon barrels or 5,000. I mean, I've seen some massively large, I was talking about before, huge barrels of whiskey. And so when they do their Redbreast 12, they'll figure out exactly what it's supposed to flavor like, because this is a blend, and it always tastes the same.
Do they just like hollow out a tree?
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine a barrel.
The whiskey tree.
Because I'm used to, that would be fucking amazing. Because I'm used to wine barrels, which are pretty good size.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to picture, like, how long does that plank of wood have to be?
Oh, it's huge.
So
that's like a tree.
I think for 1,000-gallon barrel, if I remember right, the stave length is like either 12 or 14 feet.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And they're really, I mean, a couple of people can get, have a really nice little party inside of one of these.
It's like the size of a tiny house in Portland, basically. Yeah. I mean, can I build a tiny house out of one of these barrels? Can this be a thing?
Oh, maybe because you can only use them once.
Okay, you heard it here first. This is our idea.
It's how many barrels? How many gallons?
They're like 1,000-gallon barrels.
I gotta look the shit up.
Oh my god!
You can walk into them.
This is like whiskey made by the Keebler elves, then.
Yeah, but the big drunk cousins, the leprechauns.
There we go.
Hi,
the little people.
Hi. So I just looked it up. Redbreast 12 right now in Oregon goes for $64.95.
Okay,
that's not bad.
It's a little
For
dated.
something this good.
Honestly, I've paid more for shittier.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will remember this.
What's great at a bar, you go to a bar and you look at their Irish whiskey price. If they have it, it's always cheaper than the Middleton 18 or even other stuff that's considered really good because people don't know about it, and the people that do will order it, but a lot of people don't. One of the places that I was surprised to find out was the Edgefield. One of the bars on the Edgefield has it, and I can't remember which one. I think it's the one that's all the way up by the golf course. It's all the way the furthest.
I know which one it is because I work there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Actually, both the distillery bar, which is the one you're talking about, the one by the golf course, as well as the Red Shed, which is their whiskey bar, has both the 12, the 15. I think one of them has the 18.
Now, dear listener, keep in mind the Red Shed fits like 3 people. So don't make a rush all at once to get their Redbreast.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, apparently the proper thing, I found this on the internet, the proper thing to do with one of these gigantic barrels is make a sauna out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It smells real good.
Yeah, there you go.
I would live in that.
I would live in that. That's cool.
I would actually live in like 5 of those, though.
So
want a whiskey sauna.
All lined up. One would be my bathroom.
So here's the
one
new,
would be my sauna,
here's
my
the new
bedroom,
plan.
my recording studio.
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah.
We're going to, instead of living in a house, the house will just be the recording studio, and then we'll live in barrels in the back.
They may still be full.
And
That's
so
fine.
this, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Bikers Dyson bars compound.
Oh my God. The whiskey swimming pool.
Well, the 4K Farms is actually thinking about putting a small rentable cabin down by our pond and doing like an Airbnb with it.
By one of these barrels.
We'll just use the barrels.
Now you just need to get one of these giant barrels, and there you go.
Well, and then of course my wife wants a yurt as well. So it'll be a whiskey barrel, a little cabin, and a yurt.
Cool.
Whiskey yurt.
Oh, a whiskey yurt.
Yes.
Ooh, we could pipe smells from the barrel into the yurt.
Oh my God. All right.
Just like Disney
if
World.
you just need somebody to like test drive this
I'm sure.
setup, let us know.
I don't know where I'd find people that would do that.
No, I don't know.
This-
It's the damnedest thing.
So folks, let's talk about this flavors of this. What do you all think about this? Poppy, you want to go first?
So yes, I do. I will talk some because I'm trying to come out of my stupor of like sexiness here. So it's interesting because the smell is very sort of like sexy wood shop kind of.
So it smells like Ron
Sexy.
Swanson. Go on.
It smells like a sexy wood shop, but the taste is so much smoother than the initial smell. Let me see. Hold on with my ums here because oh God, it's good, guys. Yeah, it's very hard to describe.
And this one's easy compared to the Green Spot.
Yeah, it's very smooth. It's almost like the image that came into my mind as I was drinking it was like water slide, and that's kind of all I can say.
Jacob.
Yeah.
So Redbreast is one of the things that permanently lives in my liquor cabinet. If there is no Redbreast, it means there's a emergency in the house, and I and my roommate will move heaven and earth to correct this.
As you should.
As we should. It's amazing. It drinks so smooth, and it's great for getting people to start sharing and talking, and then they try to stand up.
Now, it's still 40% or 80 proof alcohol.
I'm still sitting.
But the problem is that even compared to Jameson,
Oh, yeah.
and even the next one I think you have lined up for us, it's a sneaker.
Oh,
It
yeah.
goes down really, and part of it is that it has a slightly non-traditional distilling process, or more to the point, a more traditional distilling process.
It has I'm glad you brought that up. It's the last one.
Yes. And that's part of the reason.
Yeah, they're copper, and it's the last triple distilled distillery there is, I believe. And that's part of the unique. It's amazing stuff. Again, people will go, oh, Jameson 18, blah, blah, blah. And I go, not a chance.
And when they say that, all I hear is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah,
exactly.
Blah, blah. What I hear is, your marketing techniques are superior, Jameson. Well done.
And so with Redbreast, has this beautiful flavor. It's got it tastes very light and subtle, but is actually very complex. And it will make you weak in the knees, and you won't even know it until you try to use those knees.
Xander, are you weak in the knees?
Weak in the knees like a Pekingese?
Princess.
No.
That's a call back to our Pugmire episode, which you should check out.
She was not weak in the knees. She was a warrior.
I know.
She was weak in the brain.
Yeah, but she was so charismatic.
So I've had, this is the only whiskey I've had so far here before. And it has always been one of my absolute favorites to go back to if I'm wanting something just really nice to sip on. This to me is good cigar smoking whiskey. And like I said, it's one of the few that I've definitely had before. I would continuously order again. I don't usually spend this much money on my whiskeys, but this is one of the few that I would definitely have just kind of in the back for special occasions because it's that good and that affordable, really, when you think about the quality.
One thing I forgot to mention is that Redbreast is one of the things I pair when I sit down and have a pipe. It goes great with most classic Balkan blends. So for any pipe smokers out there, sit down, enjoy a good bowl of Balkan, and pour yourself a good couple fingers of Redbreast.
Yes.
And closing this drink out, I must say that this is so far my favorite of the three that we've had. I would
more than Powell's Gold Label.
I would definitely not mix this with Coke.
If you did, I'd find you and aforementioned Pig Farm.
No, that's kind of become my thing of would I mix this with Coke? I would not mix this with Coke. I would never even think about it.
It wouldn't even cross your mind.
Wouldn't even cross my mind. Yeah.
So to close out this section, I would just like to ask, as the only person at this table, presumably with 2X chromosomes, gentlemen, what kind of chocolate do I like?
Dark, or otherwise you're wrong.
Nathaniel, Jacob.
I don't know.
Depends on your mood.
You like chocolate that is on a stick wrapped around cake.
That was very specific.
I'll allow it.
That was very specific.
The correct answer is all.
I was about to say,
so you're like my
chocolate.
You're like my sister then.
Okay, what have we switched to now, Matt?
This is Green Spot. And so in 2006, when I first went to Ireland, first time ever in my life, there was a coworker of mine.
Is this the story about the Michaels?
This is the Michaels.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll maybe we'll get to the Michaels song a little bit later, the story a little bit later. But I asked this coworker of mine, this is a mountain of a man, 6'6", 6'8", probably weighed in at, I don't know, 350 pounds, big guy. And so when he moved, you thought a door moved and things like that, right? I mean, he's a big guy. And I was talking to him, well, if I want to go home with a couple of bottles of whiskey, what should I go? And he goes, Redbreast 12 and a bottle of Green Spot. I'm like, okay, cool. So I get 2 bottles, throw it in my luggage. And it's a unique flavor. Some people love it. Some people don't. And
I don't know what that means.
and I took him home. Well, much to my chagrin, Redbreast and Green Spot in 2006 were not sold in the States.
No, they were not.
Ooh.
Redbreast only showed up 5-6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer.
And we're happy it did.
Yeah. 4
years
Green
ago.
Spot showed up 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you could get Green Spot now, when I do whiskeys, if I don't have enough time, I start with Redbreast and then I do Green Spot, or I do Green Spot and then I do Redbreast, because they are beautiful examples of everything that has to do with Irish whiskey. And this is one of those. And some people don't like it. Some people love it. Now, 4, 5, 6 years ago, when people would go, I love this. I want it to have my children and we will all be alcoholics together.
Yay!
They would, how do I get it? And I go, well, can you fly to Dublin? They're like, what? You can't get it in the States. It's just not available.
Mm-hmm.
They had just restarted only about 10, 12 years ago. They started selling it. So they started many years before this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no age statement on this bottle, so it's at least 8 years, but you never know. And so they're like, "You're kidding." And I go, "Well, where do you get it?" When I go to Ireland, I pick up a couple of bottles. I go, "Well, what if I want a case?"
One does not simply buy a case of Green Spot.
What sort of mortgage can you take out on your house?
Yeah, exactly. And again, Green Spot is in the same ballpark price-wise now as Redbreast. And so if you like Green Spot, now they're totally different. Redbreast and Green Spot are night and day different.
Yep. Yes.
Both good, different.
Very different. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, this one's really hard for people to describe.
Yes.
And it's out of the Middleton Distillery. And there's Green Spot, Yellow Spot, and I want to say there's a Red Spot, but I can't remember. There's a third color, and I haven't seen it. Anyway, but it's a good whiskey. There is a way to get a case. At least, well, now you can get it in Oregon and Washington, and it's shown up on the West Coast. But before this, there were ways. And those are stories that I won't put on a mic.
No, I see.
Nor will I.
Oh, I see.
Contraband.
No.
Nay. There were no Boston connections involved.
Nope.
I see.
I did have a British connection, though.
On the DL.
But these weren't the mysteriously labeled packages.
Oh, you've outed me, sir.
No, never
It's vinegar.
It's vinegar. No, it's vases.
It's vases.
Oh, vases. Yes.
One vase worth 10 British pounds on my doorstep. I didn't order a vase.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
It looked a lot like
too
wine
used to
bottles.
ship internationally.
Yes.
But these days, when you acquire the Green Spot, you can just get it in state.
Yeah. You can get it in Oregon and Washington. It showed up in Washington first about 2 years ago, I think.
Bastards.
I know.
Now, how much would
Just
a bottle
kidding.
of this set someone back if they wanted to get it?
Just looked it up right now.
Yeah.
I have the OLCC price sheet in front of me. It will cost you $5 more currently than a bottle of Redbreast.
So about 70?
$69.95?
$69.95.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's exactly how much I've paid for a bottle of Crown Royal. It was a fancy Crown Royal.
Okay, listen.
What?
Yeah.
Did it come with a bag?
Yeah, duh.
With it,
I
it
mean,
was a
it was a really expensive dice bag made of leather that came with a very okay whiskey.
That was mostly sugar.
That's free whiskey, right?
That's the only
Sweet dice bag.
That's my only problem with all these whiskeys we're drinking tonight is they don't come with dice bags.
No.
Crown Royal knows what the fuck they're doing.
I mean, how many people, like, one of the few possibly illegal things I did as a kid was find out how someone could get me a Crown Royal bottle. Not because the Crown Royal, I wanted the dice bag.
Absolutely.
I mean, as a big, nerd who played role-playing games, that was like, if you had the Crown Royal dice bag.
You were legit.
I have a Bacardi Black bag, and I one-upped everybody because I had this thing.
What was the one that you gave me, Xander?
I think it was Blanton's.
Blanton's. That was it.
Blanton's also has bags now, and they're great.
I feel like Redbreast is really missing out. That's like that bottle's like the perfect shape for like a really nice, like
bag.
red leather bag or
right?
something. That would be sexy.
Comes in a nice box.
Okay.
There is a bespoke Irish distillery that if you get one of their bottles, it's still wrapped in a handmade parchment label.
Ooh, very nice.
I have never heard of this.
They produce like 3 barrels a year. We're not talking the 1,000 gallons.
You should hook up after the show.
I should.
You've got something to add to the
now,
collection.
it could be in the price range that, I'd have to sell my son for. But I mean,
Your son's not worth it.
oh, damn it. Ouch. There are some expensive bottles of whiskey.
So I can't describe this, and I like it. I really like this whiskey. I would, I could sip on this casually on my back porch, which I don't have, smoking cigars that I don't smoke. What about the rest of you?
I find this to be very, very light, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think some of the other whiskeys you've had have been a little bit on the heavier side. Again, having a hard time nailing down the flavor profile on this, but again, super smooth, very light, pleasant on the tongue. I think I like the Redbreast better for my taste personally, but I definitely understand the appeal of this one.
I as well appreciate the Redbreast a little more, simply because I could more effectively nail down the flavor.
I think I like this one is nice, but it's not as smooth as the Redbreast, so it's punching me in the mouth a little bit more than I like.
Odd. I find that this one was a lot smoother. For some reason, it just went down. It was boom, down, and I'm done.
So for me, Green Spot is a member of the dark whiskey family. It tastes like thunderstorm rain, smells like autumn. It has a very present feel in the mouth where it's not heavy, but every part of your mouth knows it's been there. And it has a little bit of leather to it that's not much, and it's mostly on the back end. Not like you find with wines or bourbons, but it's present, and that taste is what I find one of the hallmarks of good dark whiskeys.
One thing I'll say, I gave a bottle of this to a very good friend. I gave a bottle to a good friend, and he liked it so much he took it to his uncle, who has since passed, and he brand new bottle. I was like, good friend, here, take this. And this was when I only could get it from Ireland, right? Now, luckily, my manager at the time lived in Ireland, so I was going enough. And I gave it to him. Brand new bottle, unopened. Takes it to his uncle. His uncle finished the bottle overnight.
Whoa.
And my friend hadn't told his uncle how hard it was to get. This is in 2008 or like that, or 9. And his uncle, the next morning, as he's slowly nipping on his Jameson and coffee.
Hair of the dog, baby.
Yeah. Well, it's an entire bottle. Said, how do I get another? And my buddy's like, you can't. I got it from a close friend of mine, the guy I go shooting with all the time. He's like, oh, okay. So does he have more? Can I just go down to the store? No. You only can get this in Ireland. And his uncle didn't believe him. And so his uncle kept looking and looking and looking. He goes, well, how did he get it? Well, he got it from Ireland. And so I kind of divulged the aforementioned story that we kind of had touched around. I got my bottle back. He got a brand new bottle. And it's like, huh. And I was informed that he had ordered a case.
Holy
9 bottles of this. And he didn't order just one over the course of the next several years. And so I had this it's like he liked it that much.
Wow.
And I was just blown away. I was like, okay, all right, cool.
I mean, I like this whiskey. I don't think I would want to polish off a bottle of this in a night by myself.
I could polish off that Redbreast, though.
Well, that's...
Oof.
Yeah.
Well,
I have polished off a bottle of Green Spot, but...
Yeah. And at the time, I mean, if you did the math, it was like a $300 or $400 bottle because I had to fly to Dublin, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, anyway.
Well, let's move on to number 5.
Oh, okay.
All right, Matt. Now time for number 5. What is this?
Okay.
Very
I know.
floral smelling concoction that's in my glass.
So this is Yellow Spot. Yellow Spot's a 12-year single pot. Like Green Spot, it's from Mitchell's and Son. And it's amazing. So the Green Spot, Mitchell and Son and the Green Spot kind of has this interesting story. They were a distillery that was really in production many years ago, and then something happened to them. Basically, there was a whiskey crash.
I think Poppy's having a whiskey crash right now.
I'm having a whiskey gasm.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
a whiskey crash sounds like the saddest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Oh yeah.
And we literally just got done listening to a podcast about Idi Amin. So
yeah,
continue.
Yeah. And Jacob, you might know about this more than I do.
Involved.
Yeah.
I don't understand the question. I refuse to answer it.
Okay, sorry.
Your Honor, I do not recall.
I do not recall.
Continue.
Yeah. So there was, I want to say it's in the 70s. There was, around the time of the oil embargo, there was also a global whiskey market crash. Basically, the Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskeys had been pumping their marketing machine so heavily
Thank you, Jameson.
It wasn't just Jameson. I mean,
it's always Jameson.
Bushmills,
Johnny Walker, and literally 80%, I think, of the Irish whiskey distilleries went out of business.
Whoa! Yeah. Why?
Well, it was the classic. We're going to just keep making more, and people will keep buying it. Well, when the oil embargoes hit, and I think it was related to it, all of a sudden it was more expensive to ship. People stopped buying it. No one had money. Everything crashed. And within a couple of years, there were almost none left. And that's why
saddest story I've ever heard.
And the same thing happened in Scotland, not as much. Scotch, the Scottish and the English consumed it more in general, so they were able to support the market. So not as many went out of business. But we're in the United States. Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, those were staples.
And contributing to this was the fact that the Irish Republic was in the midst of what was approaching a 2 decades long recession. That stemmed from post-World War II economic issues. And it was the second great Irish diaspora. It's where a lot of the Irish population in Portland came from, where people were leaving Ireland and they had a significant, more than 1% reduction in population. People leaving to go elsewhere strictly to be able to work. Their economic base was shot. Their own population could not afford to buy the product. It would cost too much to transport. The global market was falling away because it was this rise. It went hand in hand, in fact, with the rise of California wine.
Because you could get it domestically and cheaper. And so all this happened. And so at the time, there was all these distilleries. Now, there's only even now, and it's come back a lot, I want to say there's 3-4 actual distilleries, maybe 5. There's Bushmills, of course, in Northern Ireland, Jameson, Middleton, Teeling, I think, and there's another one, and I can't even remember it. But there's very few, and there used to be hundreds of them. I mean, there was a
sheathing shop in every town.
Exactly, and so Green Spot through Mitchell and Son. And they actually use Middleton as their distillery. That's the thing that's kind of interesting is these big distilleries that are left, someone who's a distiller will come to them and go, I want to make a whiskey. Now think about this. Someone comes to you and says, I want to make a whiskey, and it's going to be a 12-year-old whiskey. I want to rent or lease your equipment and then store it in bond in your facilities for 12 years.
Well, we make nothing on it.
And I have to pay you for this. So I have to pay you, right, for 12 years to sit on my whiskey that I hope I can sell.
Hope there's not another global crash somewhere in between.
Yeah, or it's only in between.
Right? Oh, right.
So it's like, because...
we've come out of it, and now it's been 12 years. Huzzah! Nailed that one.
Yeah, exactly. So Green Spot shows back up, and they start with their normal. And this is Mitchell's and Son, of course. And people had remembered these other types. There was a yellow spot. I want to say there's a red spot, but I never can remember. And so Green Spot is a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
Back. Great. And then they release so the base one's like an 8-year. Then they release the 10-year. 10 years crazy because they only do 2,000 bottles total.
Right.
That is an expensive whiskey.
Yep.
Then they released the 12. There were 200 bottles, apparently.
What the fuck?
Yeah, something like that, right? The first runs. I don't know if they've redone them. And then they came out with Yellow Spot, which is what you're drinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, it's nothing like the Green Spot.
This is nothing like the Green Spot.
No, it's so good, though.
Yeah. And the people are freaking out. And oh my God, where do I get it? And it's like, well...
You don't.
No, you don't.
You go to Ireland. And I don't think this is available in the States, but I can't check. Someone will fact check and see if they, at least in Oregon anyway, which is always the sad thing is when I can find it down in, Comistan and, California and, or Washington. And I can't find it here because it's not here yet.
All right. So Yellow Spot, tell me if this sounds correct. If it's the 92 proof, it goes for $119.95.
We can get it. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I've had enough whiskey now that I don't recall if this has already been spoken about or not. What is the history behind the name? Is there like a fun story behind yellow spot, green spot? Like
it has a yellow spot on top of the cap.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Genius.
Was this just how they?
It's how they labeled it.
They're different.
Yep.
Like, oh, this is like garage sale stickers. Like, this is the red prize. This is the green prize. This is the yellow prize. Like,
and there's a distiller somewhere that just rolled over in his grave.
I'm so sorry.
Because you said it was a garage sale
I'm
sticker.
from the Midwest. These are garage sale stickers. I'm sorry.
I think you meant estate sale.
Estate sale on this lovely estate that we are currently on. No.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
No, this is an amazing whiskey. And they actually started reselling it in 2012.
See, the thing about this whiskey, too, is I literally just want to smell it. It smells like the cologne I've been looking for forever.
Oh, it does.
Put it
but
behind your
it's not an
ears a little.
offensive cologne.
No, it's something.
This isn't an assault upon my senses like almost all cologne actually is.
Right.
This is a weird one where I would come up randomly behind a stranger if they had this on and sniff them and then try to act like I wasn't doing it.
Yeah. What?
No, sorry, just sneeze. Woo, gotta go. Bye-bye.
Now, this is a departure. There's one important aspect here. So it's a 12-year-old. But they also supplemented the distillation process, not just with your bourbon barrels, but with sherry casks and with Malaga casks, which I don't know.
I don't know that word.
I don't know that either. What is that?
It's some other liquor. I don't know much about it.
Malaga?
Okay.
Malaga or Malacca?
Malaga? Malaga?
Yeah.
Okay, Malaga. So
What is it?
Spanish.
Spanish.
I believe. All
right.
Yeah,
it's a type of wine.
Oh.
Which in parts, it's a type of wine.
Aren't you supposed to know this, Poppy?
What? No.
Of Spanish origin with a particular type of grapes.
Yep.
So this is starting down a road where the whiskey companies are starting to play, which will lead us into one of our next, if I can convince our host to do two more.
I'm convinced.
Technically, you're the host.
Well, the host of the host of the most. I got the most whiskey.
The producer.
The producer. Oh,
Yeah, that's why you can. That's why you're the boss right now.
But yeah,
I'm so tired and so drunk.
We'll see. But this is a very interesting wine. Wine. See, you got me thinking about wine now.
Yeah, I know.
This is the one that's mixed with the Malaga.
Yeah,
And sherry cask.
And sherry cask.
It's very, very different than the green spot. It's surprising to me that these are coming from the same place.
Yeah.
I don't want to finish this glass. It's
Mitchell and Son.
I just want to keep sniffing it.
Yeah, it's really, really pleasant.
Yeah, I would like to get a distillation of this in some kind
like
of a
burning
concentrate,
wood,
so I could just like smear this,
sexy,
put under my chin, and
This is how I want my mustache wax to smell.
Oh, hey.
Oh, God.
You could do a special like crossover product with Man's Face stuff and Yellow Spot and be like, hey, can y'all come together and make a nice wax for me?
That's the second new market we've talked about today.
There we go. We're so many business ideas we're just giving away. I would 15%.
So, dear listener, if you embark upon these journeys, please just give us a shout out. We'd appreciate it.
Nah, fuck that. I want
Preferably
15%.
some money.
I want money.
Yeah.
I'm going to go
I
to
got
the patent
student loans
office
to pay
tomorrow.
off.
So this one, I'd also firmly say it's a member of the dark whiskey family. It tastes again has that underlying note like green spot of thunderstorm rain, but it has the aromatics of Genever, where it's got that floral mountain meadow flower smell to it, which I associate heavily with Genevers. And a very crisp, clean finish, and it just makes love to your palate.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jacob, what's the matter?
This is a travesty against man and God.
Why do you say that?
Because someone made a deal with the Lord Satan himself to make this beverage. It's a hot shot of a whiskey. Definitely in the dark camp. Definitely full of front-end heat and a lot of flavor around my molars.
And what would this drink be, Matt?
So this is Teeling Hybrid.
This is our 6th whiskey? Whiskey? It is a whiskey.
It's a whiskey. It's a whiskey. Or is it a whiskey?
I'm confused.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me more about that?
It tastes like an Irish whiskey that a McDonald had their hands in making.
Oh, you're right there.
And I'm talking about a Lord of the Isles McDonald, none of those Lowland Glencoe folk.
Girl, back up.
What about those chicken nugget McDonald's?
So Teeling has been doing this is from Teeling, and they've been doing some really interesting stuff. And several years back, they did the devil's work.
Oh.
They took an Irish whiskey, I believe an 8-year Irish whiskey. And then they took, I believe, a 6-year Scotch whiskey. They threw them into another barrel for 4 more years.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can't see this, but the room has darkened and there are suddenly flames and dancing naked women behind Matt right now.
As I understand it, none of the official whiskey tasters, when this came out, wanted to grade it.
So the lights just flickered, which means if you play Warframe, the Groostrag 3 are here to kill all of us.
Oh, shit.
But all the people who drank whiskey, loved it. And so Teeling kept making it because they said, who cares? Fuck them. So it has a really good Irish whiskey and a pretty good Irish whiskey guy. A really good Scotch whiskey. And then they made them for another 4 years. So this is a minimum, if you count it one way, 12 years aged spirit.
10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
So what was the barreling like throughout the lifespan?
During the 8 and the 6, that was it. They didn't move them. They just left them.
But were they in reused bourbon?
Or they had to be.
Well, Scotch, not necessarily.
That's true. I don't know.
Okay.
But I know that the Irish was in reused bourbons.
Yeah.
So, because it was an official Irish whiskey, triple distilled. And and so it's really interesting. And a lot of people who are hardcore Scotch fans or hardcore Irish whiskey fans, they get really grumpy when this comes out.
I love Scotch and I love whiskey. I like it all. This is delicious.
Nathaniel,
I love this.
So sorry. The wedding's off. I'm marrying this drink right here that's in my hand.
I'm marrying it first, actually. So,
let's talk triad.
Well, I'm done with that.
Okay,
as the person who's overseeing your ceremony, we can write the bottle.
I'll allow it.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm glad we worked something out.
Will you be the bottle bearer for the ceremony?
Do I get some of the bottle? Then yes.
So, Matt, you get a case of this. We can buy one off you, right?
Oh, no. I have a couple bottles of this left, actually.
Well, shit.
But when it comes to interesting whiskeys, Teeling is where you go.
Well, and this one's very interesting because I'm getting all of my favorite things from kind of a nice peaty Scotch mixed with that kind of glorious smoothness of the aged Irish whiskeys you've been talking about. So, I don't care what the critics say. I'm into it.
Yeah, I dig this
Those critics
very
can
heavily.
suck it. This lovely hybrid in my hand right now has made my head so full of cotton and woozy and just a general fucking attitude. I have this feeling of euphoria that has just washed over my body. And this is my, 6th whiskey? And I had wine before this.
Yeah, this is 6 in.
I had a glass of wine with dinner, which was I don't know how many hours ago.
We should finish this bottle tonight.
But
Matt.
I just got, and I'm already drunk, and I just got the biggest dopamine hit.
Well, Matt,
holy shit.
If we wanted to get a bottle of this from
I don't know if you can anymore. I have this bottle and I have one unopened bottle.
Okay.
And I don't know if they make it anymore. The people on the other end of the table may be able to frantically find it, but I'm not finding it.
Wow.
It's not on the OLCC website.
No chance.
Okay.
No chance. Now, Teeling does have a rum cask.
Well, and you know why that is?
Jamaican Irish?
No, because Bacardi bought into him on a minority stake several years back.
Oh, of Teeling? Really? I did not know that. I mean, I don't claim to be an expert in all this stuff, but that makes a lot of sense. Are you sure? Because it's at least 8 years old. So did they do it before?
It's been a while back for now.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that. It now has a distiller score of 92 out of 100.
Oh wow. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
They finally heard the good word.
It's that good.
Just making sure it's not one of those where anything less than a 95 is shit, because sometimes scoring scales suck.
So, my take on this is I wouldn't call this a Scotch, obviously.
No.
I wouldn't call this an Irish whiskey.
No.
I think that, and I hope that they continue to do projects like this. The world needs to embrace experimentation in the distilling arts.
Agreed.
Yes.
I mean, and yes, I say that knowing full well that that's a threat to Americans, the American liquor market, because to be honest, where a lot of the innovation in distilling is coming out of America. But let's start playing around, folks.
Yep.
I mean, I think if anything, the American microbrew market especially has proven the validity and the strength of experimentation and doing weird things with beer.
But so many places overseas are so beholden to tradition.
No. I agree. And so you could sell it. I mean, here's the thing. We have a marketplace of 300 million people in this country who like booze. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them like really interesting booze. And so even with this marketplace alone, you could market a lot to that.
But keep in mind, here's the problem. We've been talking about it. You have to invest 8 to 12 years in something no one may want. Okay, Jacob's going to drink it all.
Yes.
We understand that.
I will help drink it.
I mean, okay.
Seriously, Matt, put this bottle out here.
Coming from a family that has known its way around a moonshine still a time or two, the financial outlay to do a turn and burn 180-day moonshine, which is exceedingly old for moonshine,
it
is just absolutely break the banking. Going and doing the whole thing of getting casks and doing all the work for this, and it's a fortune to do this.
All right, I'm going to break you guys' hearts right now.
No.
Oh, no.
All right. I just looked it up because I thought this was true, but I wasn't sure. According to one thing I just found, they only made 1,200 bottles of this.
Oh.
Period.
What?
1,200. Yeah, I'm going to, no. I may be packing, and I'm the sober one.
Hear what you're saying?
And it might be worth it.
That's what you're saying.
There are only 1,200 bottles of this. It was limited edition.
This is why I always carry a flashbang.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I can't finish this.
You know,
if I finish this, I'll die. Somebody else needs to finish. Oh, God.
As they chase across the table.
Oh, the swords have been drawn. Boys,
you know what, Jacob?
boys.
I'm sorry. You're not getting this because you opened this segment insulting this abomination. I remember
I did not use the word abomination.
What were the words, anybody?
I'm pretty sure he said it
I'm pretty sure an abomination before God and all that is holy.
Yeah.
Yes.
an abomination before God and man.
Yes,
I think
because the Lord Satan himself was involved in the production of it.
Hence the smokiness.
Ha.
Oh,
Funny.
You are funny.
It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And it was 8 years. Yeah. 8, 12. So depending on how you want to count it. They only made 1,200 bottles.
And you have 2 of them?
Well, I got 1.5 of them at this point.
Yeah.
It's,
Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, we have one more to go.
One last whiskey.
And what's that going to be?
Oh, fuck me.
All right. So this fuck me beverage is what, Matt?
This is your normal.
It burns.
Oh, yeah, it burns.
Oh, God.
This is your straight up Connemara peated Irish whiskey. Hey, Matt, that's my piece.
Can you say that again, but slower?
Connemara.
Thank you. Go on.
My dear mother-in-law likes to drink what I call recycled ashtray bog water.
So what I just put in my mouth, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I like your mother-in-law.
And Nathaniel, you should do it in mouth.
She likes Lafroig, Lagavulin.
No.
Yeah,
Say that one again, but slower.
Lagavulin.
How does she feel about Oban and Isle of Skye? And is she single?
What about our delicious beverages from Islay?
And so I one Christmas, got her a bottle of Connemara. It was a 16-year limited edition aged bottle. This is not that.
Okay.
No, obviously.
I have one bottle left. I think, unless she stole it. I have one bottle left. Yes.
What?
It won't be opened because that's it.
Yep.
This is one of the eventuality drinks.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
The one you're drinking now, you can actually get now in Oregon, I believe.
Yes, you can.
And I can't
I'll
remember.
remember to never do that.
It is very it's very what's the word? Stratifying, very dividing.
Divisive.
You either
Delicious. Delicious is what it is.
delicious. You either like peated whiskeys or Irish whiskeys, or peated Scotch whiskeys or peated Irish whiskeys, or you don't.
I generally don't like picking things out of my teeth.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. As someone who actually doesn't drink at all because I'm allergic to alcohol.
Poor thing.
I know.
I'm sorry and thank you.
Yeah, but I collect Irish whiskey. Yeah, anyway. This is one of the ones I actually have to be careful to pour because if I corner myself, as I look around the room, I'll get too much smell of it and it'll actually make me sick.
Dear listener, he's literally sitting in a corner.
And at least two people at the table want the hybrid and Connemara. And multiple people at the table are armed.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're not. Only the sober one. I wouldn't allow that in my house.
Yeah.
All the guns are locked up, y'all.
You keep thinking that.
We did the shooting, well, that we know of. I'm sure there are guns hidden somewhere.
No boozing happened before the guns.
No, we were stone cold sober when we were shooting earlier.
Yeah. I'm pretty much a stickler with that.
Yeah.
As well you should be.
As well you should be, yes.
So this one is a normally available Connemara, and it's a peated Irish whiskey, which a lot of people have never heard of.
Xander is rubbing his nipples as he is drinking this.
A lot of people never heard of.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
A lot of people never heard of, but used to be quite a common thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was
rubbing nipples while drinking whiskey?
Well, that's always a common thing.
Okay.
I don't have you. Let me
How
take you
do
to
you
some of my
drink
favorite
whiskey?
bars in St. Paul, Minnesota. You'll.
I've been ignoring this entire side of the table since that started, and please stop bringing it up. It's making me uncomfortable.
Isn't that the line in the song? He drinks the whiskey drink, he rubs
the
his
nipples.
nipple wink. I don't know.
But no, when the big whiskey crash happened and we lost so many distilleries, one of the side effects was we lost all of the distilleries that were making peated Irish whiskey, with the exception of Connemara.
And they've recently started coming back big, and it's really just amazing stuff for those people who like drinking recycled bog water that has gone through an ashtray.
Yeah.
To me, it tastes more like I am drinking a delicious campfire.
Yes.
You know, I've never looked at a campfire and thought, I want that in my mouth.
That's literally all I think of when I think of a campfire. That's why the mustache wax that I use is made with tobacco. Because it smells nice when it's burnt, and I like my Scotch and apparently my Irish whiskey quite peaty.
Do you burn your mustache that often?
Just sets it on fire to smell it.
I go 100% Blackbeard on this at least once a year.
That's how he gets that curl. Is he actually uses a curling iron?
It's
Oh, wow. That curl is burned in.
We'll have to talk because I need to do another run of Matchlight string. So,
but it's strong. It's right up there with your Lagavulins and with their Scotch whiskeys and Lefroy's and Isles. It's for those that like it. It's really good.
Yeah, no, it is here to let you know what it's about up front from the moment you open your nostrils in the glass. And that's not for drinking all the time, but when you're in the mood for it, oh my God, it's the thing.
The nice thing about a peaty whiskey or scotch, though, is that it's one of those things where if you don't like that flavor, you will know before you even have to taste it.
Oh, yes.
It'll hit you in the nose, and you'll go, actually, I'm good. You'll say Pasadena, and you will call it a day, which means that you don't have to go and waste this goodness on people that are not, willing to accept it for what it is, which is
we're not able
drinking or a campfire or unable.
So one of the things I will say,
God, I love drinking campfires.
Is that having worked as a cook for a number of years, I've worked with a couple super tasters. Kind of like some people can see more colors than most people. Some people have a broader degree of the ability to pick up flavors. And it's an actual thing. There's ways to test for it, the whole bit. This is a horrible beverage for anyone who's verging into the super taster profile because the umami on it is so strong that it's going to just beat you about the head. Yeah.
If I'm in a crowded bar and someone pours something like this, I don't have a super taster nose, but I just have an adverse to this strong of an alcohol usually, just the odor. I'll pick it up and I'll go, oh, I know what you're drinking.
Yeah.
It's maybe not exactly what it is, but a handful. Now, if you notice, I didn't put water on these, and there's a reason. If I put water or you put water on something like this, all those things, it opens it up. It is actually, Xander, your analogy is perfect. You're sticking your head in a campfire.
So it will kill you.
Yeah, okay. Pretty much.
Just now, checking. Yeah.
Funny story. You ever go to a bar and they have those sanitizer things that they put their glasses on and like almost all of them have it now, right? So a buddy of mine who I started his whiskey habit with Johnny Walker Blue.
You're a cruel man.
Oh, yeah. It's not a bad whiskey.
No.
But it runs, when you're lucky, $140, $160 a bottle. If you're unlucky and you live in Oregon, it's upwards of $200. He orders it a lot now. So he's in Chicago at a bar working, he's working 16-hour days. And he goes to the local bar in the hotel. And he orders Johnny Walker Blue. Now, this guy's young. He actually makes Xander look like an old man. At the time, he was like 24. He's a 24-year-old that has developed a Johnny Walker Blue habit.
Oh, God.
Okay.
So he goes into pour forever.
Yeah, he pour forever. And so he goes into the bar, and he orders one. And, of course, the bartender, some kid doesn't know any better, and slides him a Johnny Walker Blue. And he drinks it, and he's like, gets this look on his face, like, what the fuck is this? This is not Johnny Walker Blue. He drinks it, and he's like, damn, what the hell's going on? Did something happen on the plane? Am I getting a cold? So literally, he leaves the bar, walks across the street, buys a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue, takes it to his hotel room, has a glass. Goes, nope, this is good. Everything's great. The world is fine again. It's perfect. Goes back down to the bar the next day. And orders another one. Now, in this bar, they are $75 a glass for a finger. Ugh. Okay.
Hotel bar, that does not surprise me.
No, not at all. Again, he gets that look on his face like all is wrong in the world. Killing him. And he's like, what the hell's going on? And he's so upset, he asks for the manager. And he goes, I need to talk to your manager. Actually, as quickly as possible, please.
They're charging $75.
Well, he's now paid $150 for 2 glasses of whiskey that both tasted horrible, right? And he has empirical, evidence that normal Johnny Walker doesn't taste like this.
Because he just bought a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. So the manager comes over and goes, what's wrong, sir? I'm in this hotel all week. I enjoy Johnny Walker Blue. I ordered it, I think, and he's saying this quietly because he doesn't want to insult anyone. I think you're someone is watering your whiskey.
Oh.
And the manager gets really insulted looking, like, what? This is an establishment, blah, 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 blah. And my buddy, who's been traveling most of his life because he's worked for the same company, and he's like, okay, I've been in really expensive hotels. This is not one of them. Okay, And he's like, we don't do that. We don't do that. Okay, I want you to pour me a glass directly from the bottle. Don't do anything with it. And the manager goes, okay. He looks to the bartender, same bartender. Goes, okay. He takes a glass down, puts it on one of the sanitizers. Sprays the glass with water, which is what the sanitizers do. Throws it out, basically takes the glass and just kind of whips out the water, pours the Johnny Walker. And as he's about to start, my buddy goes, stop. That's what's going on. And he goes, what? You're watering this drink with actually quite a bit of water. You don't know it.
Yep.
And the bartender's like, I've been serving bars, blah, blah. Yeah, but do you drink high-end whiskey? No. Yeah. Do you know what water does to whiskey? No. The manager gets a horrified look on him and says, how many have you bought? I bought 2. Okay. Your next 2 are free, and we're going to credit you for the previous 2 because the manager knew.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't do it, because the guys down on that end of the table want just how it is.
What?
You 2? Nah, you wouldn't even want to get
So Matt, quick segue here. You've walked us through a delightful number of Irish whiskeys tonight, and including 2 I've never had. And I greatly appreciate this. But you mentioned you don't drink.
Not at all.
How on earth does someone who doesn't drink develop a high-end Irish whiskey habit?
Well, so as I mentioned at the beginning of this whole interesting path, I am a collector. And the collections that I talk about are my firearm collection, and I have a Lego, specifically a Star Wars Lego collection that's also in the corner over there.
Which I've been admiring.
I've been admiring that as well.
Those are the ones that are here and not at work.
That's what your wife told us earlier.
She ratted me. I had a shelf built for me at work.
Oh.
And then I moved buildings and I was unpleasant because the shelf didn't follow me, and they informed me that it wasn't possible. And I'm like, what? Anyway, it was a 12-foot long shelf. So I was in Ireland, the same fateful trip where I was introduced to Redbreast and Green Spot. And I went into, and this is a story I alluded to. So it was the first time I was in Ireland, and took everyone out. Well, okay, I didn't take everyone. I wasn't important enough, but I went out to a team dinner for work. And I think it's called the Elephant Castle. And it's kind of a cornerstone restaurant. I mean, like if you're going to go to Ireland, you go see the Trinity, you go see the Book of Kells, and you go to the Elephant Castle. Okay. Not a big deal. Cool building. And towards the end of the night, I'm like, I want to do something very Irish. I'd like to order a round of whiskeys. And the bartender, whose name was Michael, said, okay, here's the book. And I'm like, again, I had heard of Bushmills, Jameson, and Powers, or Tilmerdew. I hadn't even heard of Powers, right? That's how unpopular it was. I was like, what the heck? There's like 100 different whiskeys in here. So anyway, he enlightens me. I order some whiskeys. And another time there's a segue in this conversation, which I won't go through. And he goes, if you want to know more, go down to the Celtic whiskey shop and ask for Michael. And I'm like, wait, no, your name's Michael. He goes, yeah. And there's a guy down there named Michael.
Yes, like 1 out of every 4 males in Ireland.
Right. It's either Sean, O'Shaughnessy, or Michael, right? Something like that. Anyway. And so I'm like, okay, cool. So the next day I had a free half a day and I go down to the Celtic whiskey shop. I got into the cab and I just said the name, and the guy goes, oh yeah, 56 Dawson Street. It's right off the green. I'm like, okay. And so off I go. And I go in the store. It's a quiet store. Middle of the day. I mean, come on, we're drinkers, but not that much. And I walk in and I ask this guy, and he's like, hey, I'm looking for Michael. I was told by Michael at the Elephant Castle that I should talk to Michael. And the guy goes, the old Michael or the young Michael? And I'm like, are there 3? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, what's the difference? Well, the old Michael is like 80 and the young Michael is like 70. I don't care. Well, it doesn't matter. They're both not here.
Oh,
okay, great. So why are you?
You're fucking with me.
I'm an American, and you're just screwing with me. Great. So I start walking around this whiskey shop, and it's not the best place to go. It's not the worst place. It's just a decent whiskey shop, and I was just blown away by how many Irish whiskeys. Now my family is German and Irish, almost split down the middle. And I'm like, wow. And then I started reading the labels and doing research about them. And this is in 2006. And I'm like, this is cool. And so I grab a couple of bottles of whiskey. And then and I'm like, okay, there's not many people in there. And I look at the guy behind the counter and I say, hey, can I put these on the counter? I'm going to browse a little bit more. He goes, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Well, I kind of lied before. And shortly I had 10 or 12 bottles of whiskey up at the counter. And I turn around and I'm like, oh, shit. There's no way TSA is going to let me get through with these. Not only, I didn't have the luggage. I mean, I couldn't even safely pack them in my checked luggage, right? And so I come up to the counter. I go, hey, I got to put some of these back. I'm sorry. He goes, why? Well, I'm from the States and I'm going on a plane. He goes, oh, well, we can ship them. Really? How much will that cost? Well, you got enough here. It'll be €50, which about the time was about $75 to ship them. What? Cool. Oh, and you don't pay VAT, so they're actually a lot cheaper, which is the value add tax that all of the EU has. And like that dropped like 12-15% off the price. So I'm doing math in my head, using my calculator, trying to figure out how much okay. So I can afford a couple more bottles. Well, anyway, long story short, it became a collection. And it just kind of grew. And then I started doing tastings like this, and it kind of continued. I actually had several coworkers. I showed up with a couple of bottles of whiskey, basically a 12-year Jameson. One guy said, oh, well, Jameson is all Jameson. It just tastes like nothing. I'm like, oh, really?
Oh.
And I have them just like a signature. No, this was a distillery reserve. You only could get it pretty much in Ireland or in Dublin. And I'm like, here. And he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it kind of became this thing where I wanted to provide this weird part of my history and my heritage to other people by getting them drunk with something I couldn't enjoy myself. I'm actually a member of the Celtic's Whiskey Shop Whiskey Club.
Oh my God.
That's a whole nother conversation from another time.
Well, Matt, seriously, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is amazing.
Outstanding.
Wonderful journey through
my favorite whiskey tasting I've ever had in my life.
Through a smidgen of your collection. And it's amazing stuff.
We could have done this all just on Jameson.
Yeah. I know. Right. Let's just do a Jameson. And it's like, nah, let's do some variety.
And now it's time for the Middleton Very Rare, yeah?
Yeah.
That would be our 8th.
Oh, God, no, we're done.
I'm in.
We're all in.
Well, if we do that, we're going to be doing it off the mics at this point because we're going to be going closing out. I've got upwards of 2 hours of recordings here, so not sure how I'm going to be releasing this. Maybe as a special side episode or maybe little chunks in between things of whiskey time with Matt. We'd like to talk to you some more in the future. I think this could be a lot of fun. This is the most informative liquor tasting I've ever had in my life.
And what's great is I could be making it all up and none of you would know except for Jacob. Oh, and maybe Xander would know. But they're not going to out me because they get free whiskey.
No. Yeah, I have no motivation to out you. Yes, sir, you're a genius. Can I have another?
Well, never out your dealer.
Any closing thoughts, folks?
I mean, I just want to extend my extreme gratitude to your amazing hospitality you and your lovely wife here have extended to us. You've been way more than generous, and I just wanted to say from the bottom of my whiskey-soaked heart, thank you very much.
You're very, very, very welcome.
When you're talking about why you chose this particular habit to collect and share, I totally get it. It's this weird thing. Whiskey holds a important part in Irish heritage, and it's what we welcome new children into the world with. It's what we send our old departed out the door with, and it's what we celebrate every moment, positive or negative, throughout the course of life. And so it is a magical elixir. I appreciate the journey through its history that you shared.
Thanks again for having us, Matt. And once again, I'm NPC.
Just Jacob.
Dr. Xander Gerrymander.
Poppy Beaujolais.
And joining us as our guest and host,
Matt Buckley.
All right. Thanks, Matt. And we're going to eschew the usual closings and just say, drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly.
Shoot responsibly.
Drink and shoot responsibly.
And always thank your host.
Always thank your host.
Thank your host. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us, friend.